Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
I was just seeing if I was presentable before anybody else got on.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, excellent. Hooray. All right. Lynn, I have to admit, the first couple of times that I got an email back from you, I kept thinking, who is Lynn Chestnut? Who is Lynn Chestnut?
Yes.
But I finally figured it out. All right, guys, so we've got a few folks on the line here. So it's 10 o'clock. So I am going to share with you that this is the very first meeting of any of our brand new sections. So you guys are the guinea pigs for how all of these meetings are going to go. So I think it's going to be great. Those of you that participated with the survey that was sent out a week or two ago when we first scheduled the meeting, thank you very much for doing that. Let me go ahead and paste into the chat a link to those materials, and so that if you're looking for them, you can easily find them. And so what we've got here are really our purpose today is going to be to sort of get to know one another, talk a little bit about the purpose of the group, sort of go over, and I just put that link into the chat so you guys can click on that, and that's going to have responses to the survey questions that were asked of you. And we'll sort of go through those responses and make some decisions today as to what we think are those top 2 or 3 issues that this particular group ought to be tackling over the next 12 to 18 months. What do we really think should be the focus of this group? I know that historically, the Kentucky Head Start Association has had a variety of different committees. Many of you have probably participated with those committees. You may have found great value in them coming together, forming networks, sharing information, just sort of talking about the issues and challenges that you may have in your office. That certainly is a core component of what we want to see in these sections. But at the same time, we'd really like to have 2 or 3 major topics, major issues that we can really focus on and things that we want to be accomplishing. And so our goal today is to sort of go through and perhaps make some decisions as to what we think those issues are. And that will help us develop a bit of a work plan. So as the lone staffer for the Kentucky Head Start Association, that really helps me keep each of our sections on track. So rather than just convening meetings where everyone vents and sort of shares and we get a little bit of help here and there, I think it's important for us to really focus on some key issues that we as an association and you as individuals really might be able to make a difference in. And I think we're sort of seeing some of those issues emerge just in your responses to the questions that were asked of you. When we think about, what are the issues facing families? Overwhelmingly some of the responses, and we'll get into these in more detail, but for instance, substance abuse, mental health issues, the cycle of poverty. When we're thinking about barriers for staff, we're thinking about caseload, we're thinking about pay, we're thinking about training and professional development. So there's lots of things that I think this group can make some decisions about that we could begin to focus on that could bring some positive change and positive impact and hopefully begin to address some of those issues. So with that, Lynn Chestnut, formerly Lynn Stevenson from KCEOC, Lynn has agreed to be the chair of this particular section. And Lynn, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and make any comments? And then we'll just quickly go around the room and ask folks to introduce themselves. And then we'll just sort of dive into the conversation.
Absolutely. I'm honored to be the chair of this committee or section, as you will. And so my name is Lynn Chestnut now at West Stevenson. So on the roster, it says Stevenson. I just got married September the 5th. I'm the Family and Community Services Manager with KCEOC. And I've been in this position for about 4 years, but I have worked for KCEOC in family services my entire career here for 16 years.
So I'm just going to start up here. I don't see all the names, but it just says T Justice.
That would be me, Teresa Justice, and I'm with Audubon Area Community Services Head Start, and I'm the Family and Community Services Team Manager. I've been doing this for 4 years, but I've been in the program for 24 years in a family services capacity, mostly as a specialist.
Okay. Christina Back.
Hello, my name's Christina Back. I work for with Gateway Community Action Agency in Kentucky. I am the Parent Family and Community Engagement Manager. I'm new to this position. I've worked for Gateway for about 10 years in the family service, aspect of it, but I'm new to this position. So only been in it since about probably August.
Okay, the next one I see, and again, I don't know all the names or the abbreviations, RYERIAN.
Hello, that's Regina Urian, and I too, like Lynn, have just gotten married, so it's Regina Logan on the email address and all that. I work for Gateway Community Action Agency. I'm the Family and Community Engagement Manager. I've been in that position about 22 years, but I've been with Gateway for 31 years with Head Start.
Wow. Okay, Heather Cheek.
I'm Heather Cheek. I'm with Bluegrass Community Action Partnership, and I am the Family Services and Health Specialist, and I've been with the agency and in this position for 3 months.
Christy Smith.
Good morning. I'm with LKLP Head Start. I'm the Disability Family and Education Specialist, and I've been in this job for about 6 years, but I've been with Head Start 21 years.
Jenny Halcomb.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jen Holcomb. And congratulations, Regina and Lynn. I am the Family and Community Services Manager, and Miss Christie is going to be my successor there. I have been with Head Start 28 years, and I have been the manager for 12.
All right. Brandy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brandy Calhoun Thomas. I'm with the Greater Louisville Head Start. I'm Director of Family Service and Health. I work also for Shine Early Learning. I've been with that company for 6 years.
Thank you. Stephanie Harrison.
Morning, Stephanie Harrison. I'm with Central Kentucky Community Action Council. I am the Parent Family and Community Engagement Manager. I've been in this role for 2 years, but I've been with the agency, I say on and off because I've left and come back for almost 15, 16 years.
Okay, Rachel Webb.
Hi, I'm with the Greater Louisville Head Start program, and I am doing family service and health.
Tracy Tucker. Okay, not hearing from Tracy. We'll go to Melinda Harrell.
Sorry. Good morning. Melinda Harrell. I'm with Paducah Head Start. I am relatively new to this position of a social worker, parent educator, but I've been with Head Start since 1996.
And then the last member of the group I see is Critchett. Is that right?
It's Tasha Critchlow. Good morning, everyone. I've been with Head Start for 10 years now, and I've been our family service communicator for our program for 3 years now.
Very good. Well, welcome to all the members of this particular section. And then the last person that's with us is Jeff Martin. Jeff is with the Audubon Area Community Action. Jeff, do you want to introduce yourself? Jeff serves as our Vice President for Engagement, and he actually oversees all of the different sections at KHSA.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Martin. I'm the Director of Audubon Area Head Start. I've been doing that close to 2 years now. Been working with John during that time and enjoying continuing that on. John, I was in Tampa a week or so ago for that meeting. Probably need to talk to you sometime just real briefly about.
Okay, yeah, I'd be real curious.
Nothing earth shattering, just to let you know what happened.
Yep, sounds good. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Okay, gang. So like I said, the goal for these meetings, I do want to try to keep them to about 60 minutes because I know you guys are awfully busy. And if you can't accomplish it in 60 minutes, you need to sort of rethink what you're trying to accomplish. So we sent a survey out and I have posted that in the Google Drive there, so you should be able to access it. But I'm going to quickly share my screen so that you should be able to take a look at this. And let me just zip right over here to it. All right, so we got our first meeting there. So we asked a series of questions of the group, and we got a few responses to each of these. And by no means is this the end all be all of our list. But the first question that we asked everyone was, thinking about Head Start Family Services, what, in your opinion, are the top 3 issues facing children and families? And we had a variety of responses. Folks were asked, again, 3 issues. So issue 1, issue 2, and issue 3. And so you've got a copy of this in that folder. I thought it might be a little easier, though, to put that into a word cloud. And this might make it a little easier for folks to sort of see and understand exactly what, making it a little bit too big, what folks were saying. Obviously, the larger the word, the more frequently that appeared in the responses. And so we see that first and foremost, parenting skills, parenting related issues were front and center in the responses. Now, whether that was getting greater parent involvement, whether that was teaching more parenting skills, whether that was working with sort of a non-traditional family where grandparents are raising kids, that sort of all fell under that parenting area. The second greatest intensity was drugs and substance abuse. And so you'll see that. The third area was mental health and mental health related issues. And then I think the fourth issue there dealt with employment and good jobs. So those were sort of the 4 top issues. And then you see the variety of other issues there that were sort of listed, sort of basic needs, cycle of poverty, health exams for children, making sure that adult education opportunities are available, or that parents and family members are at least aware of them. So those were sort of the top issues that were outlined when people were asked these particular questions. So again, I tried to break those down into particular categories, but you can see the responses listed here. And then we asked the question, less about families and more about staff. Thinking about Head Start Family Services, what, in your opinion, are the top 3 challenges facing staff? And then again, you'll see here three choices, and these were all sort of fill in the blank. So there weren't any multiple choices that people could choose from. People were free to input their own information. And so you see staffing issues, pay issues, COVID-19 issues. And again, we put together just a quick word cloud so that you could sort of see what that looks like. Again, the larger the words, the greater the intensity and the more often they appeared. So right now, COVID-19, whether that deals with vaccinations, whether that deals with the difficulty of working with parents, often in a remote environment. So COVID-19 really is a major issue for our staff right now. Time management is the second large issue, not having enough hours in the day, needing training on time management. The second issues were sort of tied, needing training and professional development for staff, and then addressing pay issues. And then you see the other issues there: understaffed, mental health, caseloads, respect, staff vacancies, sort of commitment. Many of those, I think, could run together in terms of creating an environment in which time management and caseload and all those could sort of overrun one another. And then we ask the fourth question. Now, the fourth question begins to get a little interesting. The fourth question is, if you could wave a magic wand and immediately fix one issue or challenge related to Head Start Family Services, regardless of time, staffing, or cost, what would it be? We did not put together a word cloud for these because I wanted you to sort of see those responses on their own. The first one there would be nice to have a smaller caseload. They've obviously got a lot of folks that they're dealing with, and they often don't have time to finish all of their job duties. Increase in pay for family services staff equal to that of education staff in an effort to boost morale and to more than likely increase retention. Having more participation from parents and families. And then number 4, we see again the same theme in number 2, increasing wages. And then number 5, programs would be as committed to family development as they are to education. So again, we see a little bit of a theme here in terms of workload, in terms of pay, and in terms of equity when it comes to other parts of the overall Head Start program. And then the 5th question is a very generic sort of catch-all, any additional thoughts and comments. COVID-19. So those were sort of the issues that folks shared in terms of what they thought were some of those key topics. And so I would sort of throw that out there for your reaction. Are there any of those as we sort of go through and think about them, and I can put them back up on the screen, or you can view them through that, that Google Drive. When you think about the challenges facing your families, your children, when you think about the challenges facing staff, what are those things that really rise to the forefront? And are there things that you think we could possibly do as a committee, possibly focus on, that might be able to make a difference?
I think I would definitely like to hear from other people about their thoughts where the vaccination is going to be implemented, that we have to have it by January. We're going to lose a lot of staff, and I'm already hearing from staff, and we're already so short-staffed. So staff retention, this has me up at nights, wondering how we're going to operate. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts about that. So that's my number one thing that's keeping me up at night right now, is just wondering, will these staff change their mind and go ahead and get vaccinated? And they're already working in this COVID-19, which is difficult for them. So anybody have any thoughts on that? Or
the only thing I'll say, Lynn, is that you're not in this ride alone. We're understaffed the way it is, and our program has done surveys, and we're going to lose a lot of staff due to the vaccination as well. I don't know if there's going to come out with a religious and medical exemption. I've not read anything in any language that's come down from OHS about any type of exemptions. But, you know, we do have staff that their doctors has advised them not to take the vaccine. We've got some staff that have religious beliefs, but I've not seen any language that addresses any type of exemptions. But you're not in this alone. I think all of us probably will agree on that here today.
Don, I'm not on this committee, but I do have a little bit of information if you'd like for me to interject.
Sure.
I was at the Region 4 Board of Directors meeting about a week, 10 days ago. They don't have any insight information, but what they were saying was that they were told from the very top that to expect that directive to come out. I kind of expect it this week, if not probably next week. The one thing they were saying, that it will come out pretty much like what the initial statement was, with very little variance from it, very little wiggle room, very few chances of exceptions. Not concrete, just what they thought was that the medical exemptions would be limited to if you're allergic to 2 parts of the vaccine, or if you took the first one and reacted to it because of those 2 parts. That will be the only 2 medical exemptions that they are expecting. The religious exemptions, if there is one, they think it will be very, very tight in the sense that it will have to be a very, I guess, organized religion. You can't just start, something or say that your religion is against it. It has to be something, say, if the Catholic religion, the Pope would have to already come out and condemn the vaccine and say that they were against it or something like that. So that is not concrete. That's just the thought that's coming out of Region 4. But they think it'll come down really close to the way it was written initially when they put out the initial thought on it. So nothing concrete, but just what little I know about it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you all saw it or not, because I did send it mainly to the Head Start directors, but we did put out a survey last week. And I've gotten 17 or 18 responses, so at least more than 50% asking some of these very questions around COVID vaccines, whether or not their organizations were providing any incentives, what they were doing with classrooms in terms of quarantines, what they were doing, for instance, if a staff person had already run out of sick days, are they providing additional sick days? So hopefully some of that information will be coming out later today once I can analyze those results and get that information turned around and back out to you guys. But Lynn, definitely, if that's something that's top of mind, I'm sure that spans not just this section, but I'm sure that spans the concerns that everyone would have right now. And we can certainly make that a priority going forward, trying to figure out what can be done.
I think also with not only the vaccine, I think the staffing for the pay. I know that the wages, we're losing some staff due to they can go work at a department store or Walmart or somewhere and make more than we are paying them.
And so when we think about that, we know that's an issue. In what way might we be able to address that as a group? Is there a way for us to, I know there's not a way for us to just wave that magic wand and fix that, but is there a way, how might we call better attention to it using data? How might we, because I know that we have started work on a compensation and benefits survey of all Head Start grantees across the state. We started that about 18 months ago, and it's been very slow going. So slow, in fact, that I've had to restart it as of Monday of last week with a brand new HR consultant to try and figure out how can I simplify this in order to get this sort of information together. It would be my hope that everyone would be able to participate in that to some degree so that we can begin to really see what those pay levels are across the state. But more importantly, you could then use that data within your area to be able to compare. And then as you're writing your grants or supplements, that you're able to get those boosts for your staff. But yeah, so Brandy, along those lines, what might be some of those things, or maybe a question for the group, how might we focus on that?
And John, who are you sending that survey to? Just curious.
Yep, we had sent that. We had originally, so you mean the compensation and benefits?
Yes.
Study? Yeah, we had originally sent that out to all of the Head Start directors and had worked with them to make sure that got in the hands of the HR and finance folks within each of those agencies, certainly recognizing that many of them are going to be school districts. Many of them are going to be community action agencies. Many of them may be sort of independent standalone organizations like your own. So trying to figure out who's the best person and then trying to navigate the intricacies and limitations that may exist within each one of those organizations. The organizations that have participated in that process thus far, I think have really been able to share all the information so long as they were able to anonymize, make it anonymous, right? I don't think we've had anyone that has told us outright no, as opposed to they just haven't sent us the information despite repeated requests. So it may be that despite the fact that we've already launched that, that may be something that this group wants to get behind as well, because I know that our education group is going to want to focus on that too. And there certainly can be cross-cutting initiatives and projects that go across the different sections. So when we're thinking about recruitment and retention and pay, these could all be things that each one of our sections have a real interest in. So, we may want to think about that.
I would think that, you have so many different focus groups that you're working with. I think that each person on this call and your other calls, you maybe want to shoot the email to them and put them on the, to get the survey done. I know a lot of our directors sometimes, not that it's not important, but sometimes
sure.
fall through the creases. So I would do it for each department or each survey focus group, because you'll get a good look at the whole programs.
Great idea. Have them sort of bird dog it and chase it down.
Yeah.
So another issue that popped up, and this isn't to poison the well, if you will, but another issue popped up is professional development and training. Is that something that we want to focus on now, or are there other issues that we think sort of take precedent at the moment? And again, I just throw that out there. I'm trying to think of sort of ways that this particular section and its members can begin to get engaged around certain topics.
I think professional development would definitely help to retain staff. I think a lot of times we get staff on board and it's hard to get them fully trained, because with any of these Head Start positions, it takes a good while to learn everything there is to know. You can go through a whole year progression to learn everything that you need to do. So I think professional development is definitely something I would like to see more of for family services staff. It might help with the retention. I know the pay would definitely help with retention. So that's just my initial thoughts on professional development.
So when it comes to professional development, do you think there are certain areas that need to be emphasized?
I know right now, just in general, and I know a lot of it has to do with COVID, but prior to that, family services, the mental health aspect of it, the burnout, it's very easy for family services staff to not see immediate results of how they're helping families, or having to they work with the families and it just drains. There are some families that will just drain them. Just trying to keep their morale up and for them not to experience burnout. I see that sometimes, and it's really hard when staff get to a place of burnout for us to talk them through and boost them. So I would love more information on that.
I don't know if y'all have this problem or not, but one of the things we face at LKLP is we do provide college assistance. Once our people attain that degree, they're out the door.
We do have that same problem too, Jenny.
Do you have something in place where they have to stay for a certain period of time or pay back that money?
We do at Gateway. They have to work for I think it's a period of 3 years, or they in term have to pay back that money, and our attorney takes care of that aspect of it.
We also have something in place where they would have to work. I'm not sure the exact amount of time after they've completed their degree. But even just on a lesser scale, like just internal training and things that we do.
You know, we just, Christy and I just finished up doing a FDC class. Christy, how many of those girls dropped out after we started the class with them? In our last class, I think probably 4 or 5 of them left after we finished.
I think we had 3 that dropped this time. And we have so many that will get this certification. And then before you know it, they've left us and went to another job. But I agree with Lynn as far as, I think professional development would be a good one to focus on.
I had to say during COVID, one thing I really enjoyed is I felt like on ECLEC, there has been some really, really good webinars and trainings this past couple of years. I hope they keep that up even past when we get post-COVID, because I think it's very beneficial and it really helps the specialists who could share it back with the field staff and so forth too.
So when thinking about professional development, are there certain areas, or is it just professional development generally speaking? Does family services simply need a greater emphasis on professional development, or are there key areas in which you've noticed that there are either deficiencies in training, or there are areas in which if you had training, it might boost retention?
I think there are certain areas like for my staff, it's a lot of, one of our goals is to increase our parent engagement. So that is, how do you get parents in the door? What do you do? How do you, that kind of thing. A lot of them really need more training in, and are not as confident in that. I also think it's good, and I know with COVID, it's been really difficult. I find that we're like on an island to ourselves. So it would be wonderful to be able to either just meet other staff in other areas to see and share what, to see what somebody else is doing and what worked with them, and what maybe works with us, works well with us, but to hear other ideas, because we tend to work in silos, and with COVID, it's made it worse. And I think it's good for us, like today, meeting and hearing from other people
right
around the state.
You just took part of the words out of my mouth. I said, I was getting ready to make with family engagement and the framework, those historical silos. A lot of our education staff see that as family development. Y'all can't see my little quotes. And Christian and I are working on making sure we integrate that into all parts of our program. But, there's so much requirement on the teachers. How do you get that training in with it with the teachers?
Yeah, Jenny, you may have just hit on one of the overarching themes right there, which is trying to figure out how do we better integrate family services into the more holistic Head Start. The emphasis appears to be more on education, right? And so how do we figure out to get either more emphasis or co-equal emphasis onto family services? Yeah, I like the way you said it, integrating family services into education or into
family engagement across the program. And that again, to use someone's sort of holistic view that, it all has to be there for a real chance of success.
Mhm.
Well, we always hear that family engagement is everybody's business until it comes down to family engagement being everybody's business.
You hit it on the nail head, Lynn.
Mhm.
And all of us is doing so many different ways of tracking those outcomes and that framework. Some are focusing on family development and then, our education staff sort of sees that and, there's resistance there.
And that's not to take away from education staff at all, because the education staff are overwhelmed just as much as family services is. So it's not at all to take away from education staff saying that.
Yeah.
Right, but at the same time, you can't have, you can't have one that sits so far above or is differentiated from the other.
Right.
That you end up having some of the issues that I think we're seeing people sharing today, which is pay equity, which is burnout, which is mental health, which do those things exist on the education side? Yes. But I think we're hearing it more and more on the family services and family engagement side, right? So is there a way for us to, this strikes me as one of those topics where you really could begin to make an inroad, whether it is, just beginning that conversation with folks, because I think there may be some on the other side of that conversation who may not even realize it. Yeah, so I simply throw that out as a sort of an outside observer, if you will, to this conversation. That sort of strikes me as a really key topic, a key takeaway.
Christy, the young lady that's training to be my successor, came from the education field. We recruited her from the education as a teacher. She was a lead teacher and ran the center. And we recruited her to come into the office to fulfill that role. And she says something all the time that I wish her staff would pay more attention to. You want to say out loud what you say all the time, Christy, about Julie?
No, go ahead. I say so much to you. I don't know.
What you say if you had realized as the teacher how much work Julie really had to do.
Oh, yeah, I say that all the time. And I wish that I could have helped her more. But she always said that I had so much on my plate, but we just worked together. We was a team.
Yeah.
And that's
But
what it takes. You got to have that team.
But you often say that you didn't realize how much work there was in the family.
Yeah, and the family, yes, there's a whole, yeah.
There is an issue sometimes with communication between family services and education, and it is because they're both so busy. So when you have a great team paired and they communicate, that does tend to work well. But communication is definitely an issue.
One of the things we've tried to develop over the last few years is child family staffings, in which our teacher health and our family services, anybody else that needs to be there for a specific family, they come together and they discuss the family situation. They hear it together. They look at attendance. They look at if there's any health needs that everybody needs to be on the same page and know. So they go through every month and they will pull each child, is there any needs? And if there are, then they'll take a look at those needs together. So that way they're on the same page because we are comprehensive.
We have advocated that for our staff, but unfortunately, they are, when you're in the center and you're working, you get so busy.
Yeah.
It becomes I started to say a byproduct, but not even a byproduct. And, you know, we think of we have those school readiness goals, but a lot of times it's hard to get across that family engagement, that the family part of it is as much a contributor to that school readiness as making sure you have a structured way of teaching them ABCs in the classroom.
Well, the family outcomes lead to child outcomes too. So you cannot ignore the family piece. If you don't have a healthy child, they're not going to learn. They're not getting a good night's sleep. They're not going to learn. All of it carries over into that child. So everything we do, you cannot ignore one piece, and a federal reviewer won't.
And if, you know, I keep thinking that if we can get some of the renowned trainers that is doing education and family trainings, if we can get them to start using that language of what the parents or what the families input into it while they're doing the education training. You know, they teach us the curriculum, and then they add into that what the parent contributes for that success.
Can you share more, Ms. Justice, about the child family staffing? Is there a form or anything that a checklist that you utilize, and how long?
We actually have in Child Plus, our health person actually leads it. And we have a module set up in there. And we also have like a protocol in place for it. And we can pull up Child Plus and we can see who's had their staffings, who has not. And they keep it into a binder as well. So if we're out on site, we can look at the binder and see that they're happening. And specialists can be involved as well if they want to come and join in too, if they need some assistance. So it's something that we've had to develop over the years. And I totally agree. Trying to find her here. I don't see her now. Jen, was it you?
Yeah.
Jen? Yeah, I totally agree. You really have to be mindful of it because it is so many times. The time is the big issue, time management. You're going to have to make it intentional. And that's something, some are doing it really good in our program. Some are still working towards that. We now put in place, and I just seen it came out this morning. I was on vacation a little bit last week. It was a training for all of our staff on child family staffings. We have to get everybody on board. And I really feel like it starts on top. If your top is not seeing everybody equally, your managers, what has helped us in the last few years, I feel like our content managers, our health, our education and family services, we've worked together for so long and we value each other's role. And we know the importance of all of it. It really starts there and field staff will see it. If we're not involved with it and we're not seeing it as important and we're not becoming more integrated and comprehensive in nature, then it's going to trickle down. So it has to be very intentional. It's not something that happens overnight. And I feel like we've worked so strongly together in the last few years and we respect each other that I feel like we started developing some protocols together. Some that might involve an advocate, some that might involve education or health. We're not living in silos anymore. We're not allowing ourselves to live in silos because if you do, you've already lost the whole meaning of the PFCE and the HESLOF because they all go together. They work together.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else that has a similar process or similar effort underway or has attempted that in the past?
The only thing similarly that our program does, and it's nowhere near to that depth, but the home visits that the teachers and the family services staff do, they do those together when the schedules meet. So that's not even all the time, but we highly encourage and we love when they can do their home visits at the same time.
We have asked the same thing, Lynn, that when it is possible, they start doing theirs together. I've got a question for Ms. Justice, and it just went out of my mind. Oh, during their staff meetings, I'm assuming that's a center staff meeting.
Yes, it's on the local areas for that
Yeah.
site.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, so it might not be all classrooms. I was just
It'll be
wondering
every
if they,
child. Every child will, eventually they will go through every child. But if there's no needs, they're going to go to the next and to the next. So unless there's something that really stands out, like a child's been absent for a very long time, or there's something that needs to be discussed. And I have to say, when I started 24 years ago, we didn't have such a thing because we knew the importance of working together. I never had to go do a staffing with the teacher. I went down to her room on Friday and said, hey, is there anything I need to follow up next week with any of the families? And we go through every child and we talk about it. So it was happening before we made it formal. But nowadays it's like everybody's been in their silos, and I don't know how you can succeed if you all are your own entity with the program. I don't understand how that can work. But I guess new generations, us old school people. I know, Regina, you've been here for a while. You probably talked with your teachers, didn't you? I bet you did back then. We just did. It's survival.
Absolutely. You were right on site with them all the time. You know, you did everything together, and it's a lot different now, Teresa, than it was. I used to be a family service worker.
Yes.
So it's a lot different now than it used to be. There's way more demands from the family service staff. You know, there's just a lot more going on.
Yeah, and I think with the shortages, my fear is with the shortages and they're being pulled more to the classroom. My first thought is, are they capable of doing that role when they haven't been trained that role? Is this going to put a child in danger? That scares me. Another thing that scares me is it's taking them away from their role. So they're not building those relationships with families. They don't know who the family is or the children, and they're not meeting their requirements. Any of these content areas can bring you down on a federal review. It's not one or the other.
And not only that, as far as the management goes, Christina Back is going to be taking my position when I retire, but she has 5 counties that she works with, and I have 5 counties I work with. We're always down family service staff. So at that time, we have to pick up and do their job. So when we talk about burnout, it's just not from the field staff. It's getting up to management level as well. So that gets really difficult. And then your good staff that you have, dependable, we're sending them out to another county to help us with that job. So there's a burnout level all over, you know?
Yes. Regina, you're not leaving us soon, are you? You and I have been here forever.
I was just looking at the new faces, you know, that wasn't here when I started. And, but hopefully in August.
A lot of new faces.
Yep. Regina, when's yours?
I'm thinking I'll finish out the school year. So maybe in May, into May 2022.
Yeah. Well, mine's August 2022.
Hang in there, Christina, and learn.
See, she and I are not even together now. We were housed in the same office so that we could, you know, work together. But now we're like 100 miles apart.
So John, when we talk about retention, my fear is when you're pulling people out of their roles, their job descriptions that they were hired to do, and you're filling a room because you need somebody, and they have no choice.
Right.
So I get that. But on the same token, they're not learning their job because they're busy doing another job. They probably haven't been trained on this particular job. And their job, is it going to be the quality with the family? And right now, the demands on an advocate is so high right now. You look at the American Rescue Plan and all the things that we need to be educating our parents on. There's so much out there right now helping with families that this is taken away from that as well. And I don't know what the solution is. It is what it is. You don't have staff. You have to do what you have to do. I mean, we've had to close down. We have a classroom not even open because of this. And we've had so many new teachers coming in. So it's just scary.
Well,
Do
you know,
y'all have,
it's bad because our parents, our kids at this age, we know, do not learn virtually well at all. And then when we are capable to open up in-person services, we don't have the staff to do so. We've had to close down centers too. So those, I feel like our children and families are suffering because, and I think it is a lot of low pay when they can go work at flipping burgers for, you know, you don't have the stress flipping a burger like you do working at Head Start. Or when they can draw more benefits sitting at home than they can by working, then that's what I feel like that this has came to.
Yeah.
I've got another question for you guys. Your mentors, your coaches, do they coach both family and education together, or do they just coach education?
Education for us, but we have been trained on coaching, and we're trying to move towards the strength-based competencies. We're trying to move towards that. But there's another program out there that we've been looking at for a couple of years, and right now we're working towards, and it's a National Institute, a really good program. We're out of, I'm trying to remember what it was out of, but it's for family service workers throughout the country. And you go in and take a pre-test, and it tells you where you kind of fall, and it gears professional development around that. And so that's something we want to get to and move to, but we're still trying to get through COVID. We're getting through all the new things that have taken place. IRSI has been really demanding the last 2 years, and that unemployment eligibility has been a nightmare. So there's so many other things that we're trying to do and get caught up that this has kind of been placed back on the burner, but we want to bring it back. We want to bring it forward.
Yeah, we are using, our coaches are dual purpose. And then when we had the, I don't know if y'all were in the coaching session, Chris, do you remember who done it? Region 4? We were talking about it, and some other centers were doing it also. But yeah, we're training our coaches to do both. And using the same model that for family as for education. So I was just wondering if anyone else did that.
Okay, folks, we've got about 5 minutes left in the hour that we had set aside for this conversation. So let me, if I can, go back and review some of the things that I've heard from the group that you all have sort of identified as some priorities. I'm just going to go down, and this is in no particular order, just sort of how I heard it. The first one was sort of the vaccine mandate and staff retention, that being a key issue facing all programs right now, particularly recognizing that they're understaffed as they are and possibly losing staff as a result. The next major issue is staffing and pay. The next is professional development, dealing with mental health issues and burnout. Let's see, there was the discussion about, you all talked about the college assistants and people leaving and making sure they stay. There was the conversation about burnout often rises to the management level as they're having to cover different vacancies. Let's see. We talked about integrating family services, family engagement across the program. It's everyone's job. There was the comment, it's everyone's job until it comes time for it to be everyone's job, which was an interesting comment. Educators may not realize how much work there is in the family service area, often a communication breakdown between education and family services. Teresa shared the child family staffings model that they're using at Audubon. Recognizing family outcomes lead to education outcomes. Again, we talked about the compensation and benefit study as to how that can relate to at least a couple of these areas. And then more conversation about the child and family staffing model, which Teresa, I'm going to send you a note afterwards and see if there's any information you can share with me and then with the group about that.
Okay.
That appears to be, and then we talked a little bit about the mentors and coaches. That appears to be sort of the bulk of our conversation from today. So if I had to boil it down into key areas, It's the vaccine mandate and staff retention. It's the overall question of staffing and pay. And there is a retention and burnout question there. Professional development and training. And then sort of the broader question of integrating family services and engagement across the Head Start program. I think if we had to boil it down to topical areas, those would be sort of the 4 topical areas. And there sort of are some subcategories in each of those. But I think those would be the areas that you all had identified today. Do those sound like, sort of as I just outlined them, do those sound like things, the 3 or 4 things that we would want to tackle right out of the gate, things for us to sort of emphasize?
I've got another one for you.
Okay.
Everybody else might be comfortable with it. How are you tracking outcomes, the family outcomes?
Okay.
Does anyone else have an issue with that?
Well, what I'm seeing is a lot of your research-based parenting curriculums aren't, they're good curriculums, but they don't actually give you the data you need within these 7 PFCE outcomes. So Jenny, we went on Child Plus and developed our own outcome assessment tool that our advocates use to assess the families. We do a pre and a post. We don't do the mid-year because we were doing 3 a year. And it just wasn't given, I don't think, enough time to give it the data we needed. So we're doing a pre and a post, and we developed it on Child Plus ourselves. But sometimes, you know, the data is sometimes is a little, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to be accurate sometimes, but we've not had an accurate past couple of years. So, you know, I don't know. We're doing the best we can. We had a virtual federal review. So that was interesting.
Is that a
Oh, I need to call you and talk to you. We've not got to talk in a long time. I know before, you know, we had a group that would meet, and that was its sole purpose, was these outcome or this framework and stuff.
Teresa, it was a 2. I had URSA review. We had family service. It was the 2.
So they did it virtually. How did that go?
Well, with URSA, all of my applications and the documentation, you know, proof of income, birth, and all that was uploaded on Child Plus. So you shared your screen and you went through that process. So that seemed to work well because, you know, of being able to share your screen, and through that we upload them in Child Plus as an attachment.
Yeah.
And then we had our individual interviews with our federal review team, when we had our families that would come in through Zoom. And so we did it.
Wow. So when you did your applications, was that the advocate who actually took the application, or was it your managers going through explaining it?
No, I, as the URSA coordinator, sat on there 4 days in a row with my URSA reviewer and went through and explained every application and proof of income and documentation.
Wow.
That's how they did me the last time, Regina. They wouldn't even let Christy sit in with me as a training, and they went to them and you had to explain them.
Yeah.
That we had a FA2 year before last, was it, Christy? And then we're going to have a virtual review this year.
Well, how many did they look at? Do you
They looked about 50% of mine.
Oh my word.
Yeah. And we had ours, I think it was last November. Christina, was it November 2020 or January 2020? January 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, Jenny, I can share, you know, we have, in addition to this family services section, we have other groups. One of them is data and technology.
Okay.
And so they're actually going to meet on Thursday at 10 o'clock Eastern time. And I know that one of the topics they want to discuss is not necessarily how they get everybody to use the same programs, but how they can figure out to extract the same information and how they can begin to get people to measure the same sorts of outcomes using the sort of technology that they have.
Yeah, I know when we had ours, she the one that we got it, didn't get a write-up, but we got a noted that we weren't tracking every outcome.
Jenny, we
And the standards doesn't say we had to track every outcome.
I think what Regina said is exactly what I would do. We do too. And that is through Child Plus. If you have your family assessment, it could be set up with each one of those outcomes. And that's what you need to do. Our goals are set up. And when you set the goal up, they select which outcome it's referencing. So that's two ways you can do it. Another thing we use is Ready Rosie. And
We do
Ready
too.
Rosie tracks. So you're going to have data from that as well.
Yeah, we
Teresa,
used
we
Ready
just,
Rosie.
Get ready to use Ready Rosie as well.
Good, good.
So how do you use Ready Rosie to track your outcomes though? I mean, like, how does it give you the data that you need?
We've only had it for 1 year, but I know my specialist, she was in contact with Ready Rosie and they have the data in there and they could show you how many families actually access from each of those outcomes. And they also have it with teaching strategies. So it goes in line with both of the two different frameworks. So it's a win-win on both ends. It's expensive, but it was the best thing we ever did. We did it right when we needed it, right when we needed the digital. And it's been beneficial to us.
So Christy, we need to get together and call Ready Rosie and teaching strategies.
Jenny, there's another option with CCR Analytics. We also do 3 assessments a year in Child Plus, but I have CCR Analytics, a needs assessment survey that we do in the fall, and then a family outcomes in the spring, and it is actually tied to all of the 7 outcomes. So, and they send you wonderful reports. It's costly too. There's a cost to it by child, but it does track every single outcome.
Yeah. And we also use Child Plus, and what we've been doing is, of course, with Ready Rosie, and then on Child Plus, when they do their home visits and they tackle issues with families, you can choose the outcome that that addresses. But I was just wondering if anybody had anything, and of course, our assessment is in Child Plus. So.
Yeah.
I'd just be interested in seeing what different people do. So. And John, I think if you're going to sit in on all the committees, you're a perfect outlet to start advocating that we're all into family engagement.
Mm-hmm.
I think the data group will be interesting, John, how to extract the data that we need. I think that'll be very interesting.
Yeah, I think what's going to end up happening is after these first initial meetings, which all of them are happening this week with the exception of one, we'll be able to have some summaries come out of those. And my goal, I think we're going to see some similarities across some of them. And where that happens, we may begin to see some of those groups working together on a couple of these things. We may have some members pulled out of each one of these groups to do special little projects. But again, we don't want to do too much. I mean, I want to get these sections back off the ground. I want to have them doing what they're supposed to be doing. And the conversation today strikes me as being exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So with that, we've kind of gone over a little bit for our hour. Has this been, in your all's perspective, has this been a good conversation?
Absolutely.
It's been time well spent. Would you like to see a little bit more time?
Yes.
So that you guys can have more of that free flowing conversation where we just sort of ask people, or what challenges are you having? What assistance do you need? What successes do you want to share?
I vote for it.
Instead of 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that, Lynn? 90 minutes instead? Or
Yeah, maybe 90 instead of 60.
Okay. Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll provide a summary from this meeting out to everyone. And once we've sort of got that, and I'll work with Lynn on it to make sure that we've got everything everybody's on the same page. And then we can decide when we want our next meeting to be. But I would expect that I really want these groups to come together, 4 or 5 times a year to really begin these conversations. And then once we've decided, and I think we have decided today what some of our work needs to be, we may find that there are a few folks on these groups that we want to approach and say, hey, would you mind sort of heading up this effort? And then we can begin working individually on some of those, and then have you all be reporting back to this group.
John, should we expect our emails to come from you or from Lynn from after this meeting?
I think right now, probably from me, but it'll be kind of a joint thing. Yeah, I mean, I think from a staff perspective, I'm trying to keep everything not necessarily centralized for any control purposes, really just trying to keep it centralized from a scheduling purpose and making sure that I'm on the same page, since I'm just a staff of one. So I just don't want to miss anything. So does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
All right. Well, I really appreciate your all's time today. And I know that we've got a lot of great information here, and I will get this summary out to you this week, and then we can then go from there. Lynn, thank you so much for agreeing to take on this group.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.